Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to see a very interesting game that was played at Gibraltar 2016 tournament between former world chess champion Vishwanathan Anand and 24-year-old grandmaster Adrien Demuth from France. Let's see the game. Anand plays e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to b5, a6, and bishop to a4. So far, this looks like the game is heading towards Ruy Lopez, where our former world chess champion is a greater exponent, as he has played many games as such before. But here, Adrian is normally fairly well prepared, but obviously when you play Vishwanathan Anand, the requirement is upped by a few levels. Thus, he decided to play a less theoretical game and went for d6. The game continued. White castles. Black plays bishop to g4 and Anand plays h3. Here Anand poses a question to his young opponent, asking him what to do with the bishop, whether to capture the knight or go to h5 or to retreat back on the same diagonal. Here there are many possibilities. Instead of which our young opponent played very interestingly. He plays h5, which is of course less known. Here for white there are many options. Here for the first case, white may play d3. Here after d3, black has a very interesting variation, like he can go queen to f6, asking white to accept the doubling of the pawns on king side. After h into g, pawn into g, bishop into c6, and b into c6, the knight goes to g5. But after the forcing line, which is queen to h6, f3 is the only move for white, after which he goes to queen h2, king to f2, and bishop to e7. This shows that black's attack seems to compensate for the sacrificed material. Here after h5, white can try d4. d4 is probably the most challenging reply, where the game continues with b5 probably, then bishop to b3, knight takes on d4, and h into g4. After h into g4, knight takes on b3. After a takes and h takes, and after knight to g5 and queen to d7, things are pretty unclear, as black is generally following up with c6 and f6. But let's look at the game. After h5, Vishwanathan Anand played bishop into c6. Here b into c6, and he played d3. Here Adrian captured the knight on f3, and after queen into f3 and queen into f6, the position looks equal. Here white cannot capture the queen because his square on f6 is getting replaced by the knight, which is of course what Anand won't want as a fundamental rule of chess. So he retreats back his queen to d1. Here Adrian played the way he should have played. Here what he did was he played a very interesting move, which posed very early questions to the former world champion's king. He played g5. Here white played knight to c3, and after knight to e7, white played g3, playing for f4. But I'm a bit skeptical of this idea, as it opens the long diagonal for the bishop from g7. Here black played bishop to g7, and after king to h2, queen to g6, white played f4. After f4, e into f4 and g into f4, white played g4. Here there are certain possibilities. One might think white can play d4 right away, but there's as the game goes, d4 cannot be played, because after d4 black can play f5, and after e5 black can play a very nice move c5, where you can understand that white center is collapsing. So instead of which, after g4, Anand played f5. Adrian played bishop to e5 check, and after bishop to f4 and queen to f6 and queen to d2, rook to b8 was played. Here Anand played rook to b1. This position is very critical, because it is very tempting for black to play a move like rook into b2, but rook into b2 fails because of rook into b2 and bishop into c3. There is a move e5. After e5, there is no option for black but to take the pawn on e5, after which white can play rook to b8 check, king to d7, rook into rook, and queen into rook. Even though black still should be alright there, but this position was not desired by the young grandmaster from France. So let's look at the position. After rook ab1, he played rook to g8. After rook to g8, Anand captured the bishop on e5, After queen captures with a check, queen to f4 was played. Here there are several options like queen to f6, which looks like more to the point as the queen is closer to the king side and still a good ally on the queen side. Black's g into h3 and opening the g file is the threat then. But here he played queen to c5. After queen to c5, rook g1 was played. Here Adrian played his king to d7, and after h4, avoiding any activity on the g file, here a very interesting move was played by the grandmaster from France. He played g3 check. I like this move because it opens lines on the king side, but according to the engine it was not yet necessary to resort to direct lines. But anyway, here Anand captured the pawn, and after takes, here you might wonder why not with the king, I'm sorry, with the queen, but it all boils up to the same as in the game. Here Adrian played rook to g8 check, but there was a very interesting line after king into g3. Here Adrian could have got the draw by playing rook into b2, because after rook into b2, queen to g1 check is coming, and after king to h3, it is a forced draw. You might want to see this because after king to h1, king to g3, king to g1, king to f3, you might wonder why not defend the queen, defend the check with the queen on h2, but there is of course queen to f3 check. So if you take the other route, let's see what happens. Then there is this check, then after this, then you have this. So to avoid all that, white has to accept the draw. So after so let's try to go back. Oh, went too far. Here after king to g3, queen to g8 was played, and here he took his king to h3, where it feels much safer on h3 rather than on f3. Then he played rook to g4, after which he took his queen to f3. Here Adrian played a very interesting move. He played the move queen to d4, which you'll see the result, as there were other natural looking moves like knight to g8 with the idea of deploying the knight, but Adrian executed the same idea of knight to g8 the other way around. Altogether in a different fashion, which you will see in the game. Here Anand played rook to f1. After rook to f1, he played a move that must have shocked Anand already. He played knight to d5, because here capturing the knight is not a great idea in view of rook into h4, where the young grandmaster is getting a draw with the former world champion. So here knight into knight is of course bad for white because the pawns are falling. So here after this move Anand played knight to e2. After knight to e2 he played queen to f6, attacking the pawn on h4, trying to mate him, which was defended comfortably by queen to f2. Then he played the move knight to e3. This move is nice, but the slight drawback of this approach is that now the knight is somewhat forced to wander a bit too far. So here Anand played rook to g1. Here knight into c2 was played. Probably the engine says the best move is c5, but it is far too deep of anyone's taste. So after knight into c2, Anand played the move knight to f4. Here you might think, why not rook into rook? Why not exchange the rook? Because after rook into g4, it is very dangerous because of pawn into rook, pawn into rook, king into rook. And there is nothing better than queen into b2, where after knight into g3 the h pawn is rolling very fast. So here after rook g1 and knight into c2, knight to f4 was played. Maybe he was not calculating, the former world champion, we don't know. So after rook into rook and queen into rook, we see a move queen into b2, taking the pawn. Both the players were in serious time troubles at this point, which is a bit unfortunate in such a double-edged position. Here white played queen g8, and after okay, here after queen to g8 there is a forcing draw with queen c1, because here after knight takes and you have queen f1 check, which is a forcing draw again. After queen to g4, then you have moves like queen to g2, then after queen to f4, sorry, then you have moves like queen to d2. So there was a draw already. There was a draw two times already in the game. So our French grandmaster did not find this probably. So here after queen to g8, queen into a2 was played in the game, and after knight into h5, knight to e3 was played. Here Anand played knight to f6 check and king to e7 was played. Here Anand played knight to h7, then after king to d7 and h5, Adrian played a move queen to e2, attacking the pawn on h5. Here there are tries with queen into f7, but like we like I've already told you that there looks like they were seriously in time pressure, right before the end of the time trouble. Maybe if you can see, it is already move 39. Vishwanathan Anand makes the wrong decision, and now Adrian wins the game with only forced moves. So here the mistake is queen to h4, after which you will see the moves queen to h2, which is forced, and after king to g5 and queen to g3, and after queen to h6, queens are exchanged, knight check, king to e7, knight check, and after king to f8 and knight to f6, Adrian played a move and Anand must have already resigned. He played a5. Here, after a series of absolutely only moves, Adrian is completely winning with the a pawn. An unfortunate set of circumstances for the former world champion, as things suddenly went wrong in time trouble. But at the same time, Adrian played very enterprisingly from the beginning of the game, with interesting ideas, playing absolutely out of the book. So in the sense, he fully deserved his scalp. So anyway, the game continued with king to h7, then Adrian played a4, and Vishwanathan Anand resigned. He resigned in the view of knight to d7, and after king to e8 and knight to f6, you have moves like king to e7, and after h6, a3, and king to g8, a2, and h7. This is just a line I'm showing. And after the promotion of the queen and the promotion of the queen, you can see that Vishwanathan Anand will be a knight odds in the game after queen into f6. So that's the game, friends. Let me know how you find this game, and if you like the content of the video, please feel free to hit like, share, and subscribe. And bye for now. Good luck with your chess.